going to start with an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, AIESEC acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So thank you all once again for coming to our workshop today, and a special welcome to members of AIESEC Alumni that have joined us, who are here to support and share their experiences with us. It's really great to have you all here. And I'd like to invite Andrew from Alumni to say a few words just to start us off.
I think Andrew's going a bit late. David, can you take over?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, on behalf of AIESEC Alumni Asia Pacific and in Andrew's absence, AIESEC Alumni Australia, we're delighted to be co-running these things with AIESEC, and it's just all credit to AIESEC for having the initiative to have come up with this entire program, and this being the last of the series of 5. And I can just say that I originally approached Megan about this series of events a few months ago, and because I've seen Megan before presenting, and she's just fantastic. She's got so many insights, so I'm really excited to have her here. And just so you know, when I approached Megan, for example, Megan's a perfect example of someone who is a real expert in her field, and she didn't agree to do this because she was hoping to get a whole lot of financial reward from it. Not at all. She was someone like the others that we've had in this program who was more than happy to give up her time because she believes also in what AIESEC is doing and what the alumni is doing, and has a lot of shared values, and it's all about impact, empowering our members to serve the community as best we can. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this, and thank you again. Back to you.
Thank you so much, David. I think it's great that we're able to share all of our insights with each other and really connect over our shared visions and goals. Okay, so on to a few expectations for the workshop. If you attended the past sessions, you will be familiar with these. The first is to be present and respect the space. Next, to keep your camera on. If you can, it really helps to engage face-to-face. Make sure that you're not muted before speaking, and stay muted when you're not talking, just to avoid interruptions for the speaker. And lastly, be proactive and don't be afraid to speak up in the Q&A session. All of your questions are valid. And if you would like to use the chat box, that's okay as well. So on to today's agenda. We're going to start with a quick introduction of YLX. Then we're going to move on to Make Your Mark, which is Megan's session. Then we'll have a quick Q&A, and we'll finish with some concluding remarks. So what is YLX? These workshops are a part of AIESEC's Youth Leadership Experience Initiative. And through our partnership with AIESEC Alumni, we have the objective to create a community that connects individuals who are interested in developing and learning by providing relevant and practical learning experiences. Our workshop series this semester addressed 5 topics. We started with priority management, or design your life, which looked at visualizing your life and setting effective goals, something that would be really great to do at the start of every year. Then we had communication in virtual environments, something that we know to be essential thanks to 2020. And we discussed using verbal and nonverbal cues to get your message across. The third workshop was self-management, bringing it back to you as an individual and providing some strategies to make sure that you're in your best mental space possible. Next was team empowerment, which was a really critical discussion about building team culture, providing effective feedback, and being an empowering and empathetic leader at the same time. And today we are on our 5th and last topic, which is personal branding, where we can learn how to display all of the skills that we've learned effectively on various platforms. The intention of these workshops was to deliver valuable content as well as create a closer bond with AIESEC alumni. And we really hope that you have enjoyed them and learned a lot these past few weeks and continue to do so today and beyond. So without further ado, It is my great pleasure to welcome Megan Edwards to take you through how to make your mark.
Well, thank you. Hi, everybody. This is absolutely my pet topic, so I will do my best to keep it contained to the time that we've got today. I could spend the entire day talking about this topic. Anyway, thank you for being present, and as was said in the introduction, it is really the pointy end of everything that you have looked at over the last 4 preceding sessions. So I'm going to cover a couple of directions really around not just the tactical things, but some high level things as well, so that you can go away with perhaps a fresh perspective around LinkedIn and around how LinkedIn is fitting in not just to the marketing structure within your organisation or for your own personal brand, but how it is sitting on top of everything that is going on in the climate at the moment. So I'd ask you all to leave any preconceptions you have of LinkedIn at the door and come in with an open mind, because I am going to poke and prod you a little bit to bust some myths around what it means to be using LinkedIn for business. So let's jump in. All right. Okay, so it's kind of a no-brainer as to why LinkedIn has become the go-to channel from a commercial perspective. Really, it doesn't have a lot of competition. That in itself directs a lot of people there, but it has become the modern day version of your website. Now, I should say I've had multiple arguments with website developers as to what's more important, your LinkedIn profile or your website. I would argue every single day of the week, LinkedIn, and I'll explain why in a moment. If there's anybody in the audience who is in web development, please bear with me. But LinkedIn really, it's dynamic. Yeah, you can do as much updating to your website as you like. LinkedIn is comparatively a living, breathing thing that not only you are involved in the creation of. And I think that is the essence of it, that you need to at least keep it on board when you're doing anything in relation to your marketing. All right. So I like to think of it as the 3D version of you, okay? If you think of your website, very contrived, very typical marketing, often quite static in terms of how you describe your organisation or the people within your organisation, or simply your services and your goods, okay? LinkedIn, as I said a moment ago, you don't get entire control of what happens, okay? And believe it or not, that's part of the fun of it, because you don't get that control. That's why I asked you to leave some preconceptions at the door a few moments ago. But if you think about it, what I'm getting at, in other words, is that if you imagined a trip to Mount Everest, and I had the absolute brilliant good fortune of seeing Mount Everest in the flesh a few years ago. But if you imagined Mount Everest on your TV screen in your living room on Netflix right now, it's an experience. You can marvel at it. You can sit back with your green tea and your popcorn and admire the scenery. But imagine that you're actually sitting in a tent at base camp, okay? And you're looking out at that same view. That is the difference between your website, Netflix, and LinkedIn, okay? You have far more active participation, and that's the ticket to making it work, is that you can keep twisting and turning, or pivoting is the phrase that's being thrown around a lot at the moment, to adjust to what's going on in the market far more agilely than you can on something like a website. And let's face it, people don't really care about your website. It's marketing, it's branding, it's you having thought for however many hours or days, weeks or months about how to make yourself sound good. Okay, LinkedIn, not so much. All right, LinkedIn has had an absolute crazy growth trajectory, and it spiked a few years ago when it went public. It's changed even more so over the last couple of years. But if you think about the commercial environment over the last 12 months alone, we know what's been going on there. We know everything that has overlaid the commercial landscape in terms of the health situation, okay? But it has had exponential growth during what seems to be almost a counterintuitively trying time for commerce, okay? Some things haven't changed. Everybody that turns up there with a commercial hat on still wants these three things, yeah, in one form or another, one of or multiple pieces. And from your audience's perspective, they're going onto LinkedIn again for the same purposes. Yeah, they're checking us out. Yeah, you do it, I do it, whether you admit to it or not. We all check other people out in one way or another on social media. And LinkedIn is where you really have to level up in terms of what you are presenting. Yeah, if you're after a job, yeah, you might go and check your Facebook page and make sure there aren't any unsavory Saturday night snaps from a nightclub or something like that. But when it comes to LinkedIn, it goes deeper than that. Yeah, much deeper and wider. So there's a whole lot of this validation and credibility checking going on, regardless of the pandemic. Okay. So what has changed? Yeah. As I said at the beginning, I could spend this entire session just talking about LinkedIn in general terms, but I want you to think in the context of what has happened over the last year, but more specifically over the last, say, 3 to 4 months since the end of financial year, because we know what's happened. And it doesn't take Captain Obvious to tell you that, right? But we need to think about who has changed. And every single one of you has changed over the last few months, okay? What you thought of LinkedIn before, whether that's any different to how you view it now, really doesn't matter. You as an individual, you in terms of your thought processes, your habits, how you approach your business or your career or your study has all gone through a rapid fire evolution. Keeping that in mind though, we still have to go onto a platform like LinkedIn and start where the audience is. So pretend you're the audience, because you are, right? Pretend you're the audience. Let's start where you are and why you go onto a platform like LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta or any of the others. Why do you go there? Okay, 2 primary reasons. Proportionate to the individual: entertainment, education. And from a marketing perspective, the holy grail is to somehow unite those two in this beautiful alchemy of communication, okay? But that bit, again, hasn't changed. So let's try to reframe things. Let's think commercially, let's think marketing, let's think personal brand, but let's scrap all the stuff, all the grit that is in our thoughts at the moment around what to do in the context of marketing when you are looking through a veil of something like COVID-19. There's a whole lot of myths. I have conversations with clients and peers every single day of the week at the moment. Everybody is nervous. Okay, so let's just kick a few of those myths out right here and now. Okay, it is not insensitive to market now. Okay, what it is insensitive to do is to go in with the same approach that you had 6 months ago. Okay, it's not insensitive to turn up. If anything, it's acknowledging that you are willing to go the distance, that you are staying the course, provided, of course, that you don't bounce around and latch on to trending topics and suddenly start hashtagging every post that you write with pandemic or Zoom fatigue or COVID-19. Okay, there is a saturation of people bandwagoning to leverage the climate. Okay, that approach wears thin really fast with your audience. and it damages your personal brand. Okay, even if it bores the audience, that's not so critical. It does damage your reputation because you're floating. You're not staying anchored to why you were there in the first place. Okay, so it's not insensitive, but you do have to reframe things. And how do you do that? You acknowledge where your audience is at. Okay, rather than continuing to cram the same message down their throats. Because ultimately people are still turning up, and I'm going to show you some very specific behavioural shifts there about how the platform is being used differently. But even though business in many industries has absolutely ground to a halt, people have gone onto LinkedIn more, and they're all going there for a couple of primary reasons. Okay, so it's up to us as leaders in our industries, thought leader, authority, call us whatever you want to call it. Okay, if we fluff around and can't stay on track, what does that do to our credibility? What does that do to our impression in the audience's mind about what we're going to be like after the pandemic? Yeah, we're like Chicken Little. And it's okay to mention the pandemic, right? I posted something recently that talked about some of the buzzwords that people have overused, okay? But it's okay to acknowledge that this is what's going on. If you ignore it, people wonder why. All right. If you think about marketing in social media terms across any platform, what's the first thing that people measure you on when you have a conversation or when they look at your social media account? What do they measure you on? How pretty your photo is? No. Okay. How many connections you've got? Maybe. Or followers. Yeah. But these days that doesn't count for as much as the richness and the quality of those people. Okay. There are still clangers though. There are absolutely clangers that across all platforms, and this is specific to LinkedIn, this graph I'm showing you now, but there are specific behaviours that if you said to Megan, what don't I do? This is it, okay? We don't like being sold to. Again, no change. Irrelevancy, too much of content. Now, how much is too much is a subjective thing. Confusing people with the way that we write our communications, okay? Not having enough communication. So going back to what I said before, don't get gun shy because there's something crazy going on internationally at the moment. Stay the course, find a way. And not responding. I mean, come on. If people if people phone you and you pick up the phone but you don't speak, they're going to think that you're a bit weird. If someone leaves a comment on your social media post and you don't respond, it's the same reaction from that person who took 30 seconds out of their day to leave you a comment, assuming that it was a nice comment. Okay, same rules. So none of this is rocket science, right? All right, let me stop hammering you for a minute and give you some good stuff. All right. Ultimately, the best thing that has come out of this current situation is that it has taken the pressure off, okay? We are allowed to be a little less formal, a little less perfect, okay? I'm presenting today from my home office with a cat and a son in the background, okay? Everybody has got things going on currently, and it's okay to show that. Doesn't mean that you don't do your utmost to show up in the best possible way, okay? You need to invest in things. So if you're on video calls, you invest in, $200-300 in some good quality lights, okay? Which you'll learn about at another webinar. But those little things can elevate you in terms of your personal brand, which doesn't sleep when you're on a Zoom call, elevate you in your personal brand, so that when the pandemic finishes and business starts to resume, you're up here you haven't gone like that. Okay. And let's ask ourselves just for a second, what is the one thing that we're missing at the moment more than anything else? Let me give you a hint. Anybody? Human interaction. Okay. There's only so much you can achieve through a screen. Fair to say. Okay, I'm doing my best to, reach out to you here. Normally I would be in a group setting where I could literally go around and put my hands on people's shoulders. We need to, again, personal brand needs to elevate so that we bust through that 2D world that we're forced to operate in at the moment, and we're able to support people in the one way that every single one of us, irrespective of the sector that you're in, needs to be not only acknowledged, but nurtured now. Imagine a business conversation that talks about nurturing, not lead nurturing, but nurturing the person. Radical concept, perhaps. Okay, but think about it. Yeah, we're all craving that interaction. And the smart users of LinkedIn, the ones who are not only smart marketing wise, but connected from a human perspective, have recognized this from the get-go. Okay, look at the stats that are on the screen right now. Everything that people are doing more of over the last 6 months points to the craving for interaction, for feedback, for dialogue, for faces and voices, not just a written word, okay? 272% more comments. I mean, if that's not people wanting to strike up a conversation, I don't know what is, okay? And the 1%, because 1% of 715 million members internationally, 1% are the ones that are commercially making a go of LinkedIn. The ones that are showing up regularly and not only getting famous, but actually commercially improving their bottom line. Okay? Now you do the math. 1% of 715 million. Not a lot. Okay? So what are they doing? Let's look at some specific tasks or tactics that they're all doing that they know work. All right? Front and back ends. They don't ignore one part of the platform. Okay? Their communication flows through the newsfeed in content, and they support it with back end conversations through direct messaging. Those two pieces have to go together. Bottom line. Otherwise, you might as well be hopping around on one leg. It needs the two working in a synchronized way, okay? They're omni-channel, which anybody in marketing would know these days. You can't just have a one-trick pony. You've got your socials, you've got your website, you've got maybe old school printed collateral. No, if you can get a printer to print it for you at the moment, but they're across multiple channels because they know the audience is, yes, and the audience is receptive to different messages in different formats, okay? Like I said, they're responding to the desire for face and voice communication. They're all over it. And they prioritize their visibility, okay? As I was saying before, they're not taking a holiday or having a quiet little meltdown while everything's going on at the moment. They're turning up, okay? They are prioritizing continuing to be seen in whatever form that takes. And the last thing that 1% is doing is they're not leaning on paid campaigns. They know that an organic presence provides the scaffolding. You can throw all the money that you want at a LinkedIn advertising campaign, and believe me, it will require a lot because LinkedIn is not cheap to advertise. You can't run an advertising campaign and not have an organic presence. to substantiate it. You just can't. Well, you can, but it's money down the drain. And from your audience's perspective, you're like a firecracker. You go up, you'll be seen, and then you go on again. Okay? What does that do to your personal brand and your credibility? It doesn't do it a favor. Okay? So what they do, let's look at some specific tactics. If you haven't started using voice messaging in the direct messaging stream of LinkedIn, get on board. It's been in place for over a year, and I'm amazed that the uptake is minuscule, absolutely minuscule. Cost you nothing. Everybody's got it on their phone app, okay? If you've got your phone app there in front of you and you want to follow along with what I'm showing you on screen, please do. But I'm just going to fly you through very quickly, screen by screen, what you see when you create that voice message. Now, I don't know about you, but I can certainly speak faster than I can type, and I'm a reasonable typist. Yeah, I think most of us are the same. Makes life easier. Imagine what you can say in 60 seconds of text. Anyway, so on your app, as soon as you open it, click on the message icon, top right-hand side, okay? You open up a new message. You pick the person you're going to send it to. Yeah, not too challenging yet. And then you have the option to write your message or take a detour to the microphone and hit record. You do need to be succinct. You get 60 seconds or 59 seconds to leave that message. You can press record a second time if you want to, but imagine the impression you're going to create. A, your audience is craving human interaction. B, nobody's using the tool. Yeah. And yes, you can delete it and pre-record it if you don't like the sound of your voice, or you said something a bit funny, or I don't know, something, an alarm went off in the background or something like that. Okay. Leverage the things that people aren't doing for free. Okay. I sound a bit evangelical, don't I? But you get where I'm coming from. It's just, it's the low-hanging fruit, okay? And once you get beyond that stage, imagine the elevation you would get if you took this challenge and you actually left a video message directed at that person. Yeah? Food for thought for those of you willing to give it a shot. All right. The second thing that this 1% is doing, as I said, they're prioritizing being visible in the news feed. Now, yes, that means you've got to publish in one way or another, but it's as much as about you supporting other people in the news feed as it is about your own stuff. Okay, which I think is a really underappreciated distinction. And you only have to spend a little bit of time on the platform to recognize that your name pops up every time you do something. Megan liked this. Megan commented on this. Megan shared on this. It's like a groundswell of your name or your brand being reiterated over and over again. And that's not going to be annoying to people, provided that you have cultivated an audience that is actually interested in what you have to say. But it means that you're constantly supplementing the content that you do publish through your interaction, that little drip feeding approach. Okay. All right. So your homework, if you're not already on board with this, you've got to show up 4 or 5 times a week, absolute minimum. Okay. I would be doing you a disservice to say that you do any less. Okay. A couple of years ago, when I started working with people around this specifically, because it was a question that came up time and time again, people would try to pin me down on it and say, can't I get away with 3? Can't I leave a couple of days in the middle? I tried to be nice. I'm through being nice. I'm sorry, guys. 4 or 5 times a week, rock bottom, simply because you do not get the cut through. So if you are half-hearted about this, you will not get the results. Okay. That's why I'm saying it, and I've lived it. Okay. And do the interaction as often as you publish. Somebody actually described this to me as warming up the algorithm. And it makes sense. You prime the algorithm by supporting what other people are doing before you publish. It's like getting a running start. Okay, but again, it's balancing out your activity, which I think from a personal brand, but also a best practice perspective is critical, and not enough people do it. So we don't want to be the masses. We want to be above that. Repurpose what you're doing on other channels. Okay, don't just carbon copy it, but repurpose it. Okay, go to your website, poke around in your blogs, have a look at the old flyers that you produced, the events that you've done. Gosh, even look at the comments on your past posts, heaven forbid. There's all feedback there. Yeah, we complain about not having new ideas, and yet people are feeding us feedback all the time. Okay. And support what your clients or your peers are doing. Okay, because again, you're leveraging what I showed you on the previous slide, that you're keeping your name up there while you're doing something to support people from a heart-driven perspective. Okay, you're allowed to do both. Okay, you are allowed to do both. All right. The third thing these people do that not enough of us do is they magnetize their content. Has anyone seen the button on LinkedIn that says magnetize my content? No, a lot of blank expressions. That's because there isn't one. What I'm getting at is using the tools that are there, okay? The mechanisms that are already built in, just like all the other social media platforms, that allow you to draw people to you, even when they don't know who you are personally, okay? Because as much as we like to think we're famous, usually we're not, okay? So let's leverage what's there to make it easier for people to find us, okay? Bottom line, you've got to use the tagging and the messaging and the hashtags. And there's a little bit of homework and a little bit of research in that to look them up, see which ones have got the biggest following, use those, okay? And don't take the Instagram approach of using hashtags that are more humorous than useful. Okay, the primary purpose of a hashtag is to get you found. Okay, they're driven by keywords, by industry terms, by your expertise. What do you want to be known for? You don't want to be known for, you know, single mum life, because it doesn't get you found. Okay, you get where I'm coming from. But you've got to leverage these things to make it that much easier for people to find you. And a coach said to me a few years back, if you don't do everything in your power to help people find you, you're doing them a disservice. But more than that, you're being selfish. It's like you're keeping your information too close to your chest. You don't want to share it. Yeah. Let's sit with that one for a minute. All right. And there's some crazy stuff that people do that damages their presence and their reputation, sometimes without even realizing that they're doing it. So this is another one of those moments where you might want to play along in the background, check your settings, or take a screenshot of what I'm going to show you, because this happens more often than it should, and it creates a really damaging impression, okay? We want to make sure that we are aligned across our channels, and primarily your website to your LinkedIn presence, not to appease the web developers that I was giving a hard time at the beginning, but to align our keywords for SEO. Yeah, there's a good, hard, fast, scientific reason for that, okay? And your profile photo. Now, you've probably read 50,000 posts from people saying you've got to have a professional photo. It's got to be this, it's got to be that. I'm not going to waste any time chewing your ear about that. But what I will say is a lot of the time people go to the trouble of investing in that, and they forget a setting that makes it visible to their network. Okay, so please, firstly, have a look at your profile URL, because everybody has a string of numbers after their name simply to distinguish you as a unique identifier. If you've got a website with a keyword in it, why isn't that keyword and your brand over on LinkedIn as well? Okay, the SEO on LinkedIn is free. Free, guys. All right. And these are big terms usually. Okay, now in my case, I'm not allowed to use LinkedIn because I don't work for LinkedIn, but I can still say marketing, I can still say content, I can still say M words. So play around with it and bring it in line with your website so that when somebody searches on Google, both of those pages come up. Okay, it makes logical sense. And you can edit it from your personal page, 2 clicks. Okay, you've got quite a big character count. You can change it when you need to. It will take a couple of weeks for Google to catch up, just like it does with your website. But why wouldn't you align those two if it can be done in 60 seconds? Yeah. And the profile visibility, guys, lots of people get on board with the URL, but this profile thing is still a massive problem. Okay, I see this blank grey face so often, not because you don't have a photo, but because it's not switched to public. Yeah. I used to think this was LinkedIn 101 until I realized how many senior people and marketers should know better, but senior people have got this switched off unknowingly. So please go into your settings and check that it is set to public. Okay, otherwise you might as well have a paper bag over your head. All right. And if you think about it, not only what I was saying before about people needing more of the human side of us right now, that's an ongoing credibility issue for your personal brand. Ongoing. That doesn't change. Why is that person not showing me their face? Is it because they've got an amazing photo they forgot to show me? Or is it because they don't want to show me their face? Okay? Don't leave that question circling around in people's brains. All right? And the last thing that this 1% is doing is that they are credibility building the quick and easy and fast way. Okay? They are leveraging other people's channels to create content for themselves. Okay? They're using podcasts and they're using LinkedIn Live. Now, you don't have to do either of those things, but you do need to do some homework to find these spots that you can be a guest on. Because I can bet if I asked each one of you now, you would have at least one topic you could speak to that you know in a deep fashion. Yeah? Do your research, find opportunities. These people are always looking for guests, always. Even if they're planning their calendar 3 months out, they're more than happy to have a chat and line you up a couple of months down the track. Then they promote you. Again, you haven't done any work. Then they can often send you the video file. Again, you haven't done any work. Okay, you're getting content to supplement what you're creating, which is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for marketers who say, I don't have enough resource to keep creating content. Okay, so start using some of these mechanisms to create multiple pieces. All right. And lastly, I can leave you with 3 things to just sit with today. The first one is don't be afraid to give away just a little bit of IP. Okay, not your secret sauce. All right, but if you don't give a little bit of information away, and when I say a little bit of information, I mean enough that people could run with that and do something with it. Okay, then you're not going to stand out in their mind. You're going to come across as just like any other business owner or salesperson or marketer who has something to sell. And again, from a personal brand and credibility perspective, That's not building a personal brand. That's just joining the sheep. Okay? It's not going to ruin you if you give away just little fragments of your IP to help people get the ball rolling. Because what happens when the ball's rolling? They go, okay, what comes next? Who do I need to talk to? Oh, that person that gave me a head start. Not the one who kept it all to themselves and said, no, pay first. Again, I have battle tested this after being a skeptic a few years ago. It works, guys. It works. The second thing to consider is that your content is effectively a flight simulator. Okay, you are taking people through the experience of working with you. And I'm not talking about giving them a blow-by-blow, step-by-step example of what you do. I'm talking about how you show up. Okay, so going back to our anchor of our personal brand, you are giving people an experience of your personality, your communication style, your values, your standards. Okay. We demonstrate more of our values and standards through what's unspoken than spoken. And usually the spoken is false, okay? Because we're trying to tell people what they want to hear, okay? Give people an experience of you. Don't put on a different hat because you're on social media, okay? And lastly, this is not a spectator sport, guys. Okay, you have to participate to get the outcome. Create, support, leverage those people who are already creating the content, okay, so that you can be one of the 1%. Does that make sense? Yes? All right. Let me know if you want some help, but I would love to connect with you regardless. And I will hand it over for any questions.
Great, thank you so much, Megan. You can stop sharing now if you'd like.
Got it. Your screen. Give me a second. There you go. Beautiful.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that session. I think we all gained a lot of insight and a new perspective on the importance of LinkedIn. And I really particularly like the point about how we can use the current situation not to exploit LinkedIn, but to be more authentic rather on the platform. So thank you so much. So we're going to move on to the Q&A session now. We actually already have a few questions in the chat. I think Maxine had the first question. So she asked, Megan, what if we've already contacted the person via message? Would you still recommend using the voice message tool?
Yes. Yes. Level up, okay? It doesn't matter what's come before, level up. Yeah, because if they ignored your previous message, this one's going to pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has another question. If I've already posted something once or twice today, should I still go ahead and post again? I'm aware you mentioned we shouldn't post too much.
Gotcha. There's two parts to that. The first is that if you post from the audience's perspective as being too much, it's because you're producing things that they don't value. Okay, so run it through that filter. Regardless of what I think, is it valuable to them? Or is it just me venting or, you know, latching on to something that happened to catch our eye versus actual value to the audience? More often than not, when I come up with things, I will sideline them and just accumulate. I have a folder on my desktop called content ideas. Okay, and I just drag and drop everything into there. I voice dictate it onto a Word document or whatever tool I've got, and I drop it in there because I know that there's going to come a time when I need ideas. But don't just shoot from the hip and post because you got this great idea. Record it so that you can do it in a meaningful and purposeful way.
Yeah. And we have a question from David. So if you have two brands to build via LinkedIn, how do you manage the two? And if necessary, keep them separate?
Okay. first rule is don't have two personal profiles. Have one personal profile and then create company pages that lead off that for any streams of multiple businesses. Okay. Your bottom line, you're contravening their terms and conditions if you have two personal pages. But it really is a smack in the face to your personal brand as well if somebody searches for you and they find two identities. Okay, be careful with that.
Thank you. We have a question from Ting. So I have a question about fake profiles on LinkedIn. I once received a message from someone who supposedly works at Shell in the US. I was very excited, but the profile was rather empty. And after much research, I deemed it as fake. However, this person did have over 500 plus connections. I left the message untouched as there is always the thought of what if, but how would you go about a situation like this?
LinkedIn's really encouraging people to report those things. Excuse me. There's a button on the profile there to do that. So when you're on the page of that person that you think is a fake profile, and they've just released another media release around that. So block that person, report it so that LinkedIn can check it out. And look, it's usually pretty transparent. Once you've come across a few, that was a perfect example. It looks hollow underneath the headline and maybe a photo. And you can go to the extent of doing a Google image search to see whether it's a stock image too, if you want to go that far. But usually it's emptied from the top down. So yeah, but definitely report.
Yeah. Thank you. So we can take 1 to 2 more questions.
I had a question. Regarding content on LinkedIn, so would you say that blogs are dead at this point because viewers want more of interactive experiences such as videos and podcasts? And if blogs are not dead, would you recommend posting direct blog links from our websites, or would you rather recommend that we use the LinkedIn feature of posting blogs?
Okay. So yes, the first thing you said is absolutely spot on. The LinkedIn blogs, or articles as they call them, is absolutely dead in the water at the moment. And I sat on a podcast about that only last week, which confirmed what we've known for probably 12 months, 18 months. What I suggest to people is that they write what would be an article, put it on their website, and then carve it up into bite-sized pieces to make posts. So same content, but going to the repurposing to pull it over to LinkedIn. Otherwise you're pouring all that time into an article that doesn't get the reach. Okay. But make sure if you're going to put content on two platforms that it is distinct. Okay. Right. Because the search engines are still sweeping both and they will pick up duplicates. So you have to be careful with that.
Also, one more question about videos. So platforms like Instagram and Facebook have known to have algorithms which support videos more than photos. So is it the same with LinkedIn as well?
LinkedIn has a separate algorithm for videos. So everything that isn't a video goes on one, and then video on its own. So any comparison of metrics there is always going to be not accurate. At the moment, I'm noticing that static images are not getting a lot of reach. Videos are doing reasonably well, but you've just got to experiment, because sometimes it comes down to the individual's presence and that individual message. Okay, but going back to what I said at the beginning, putting a face on things is absolutely the ticket at the moment, static or moving.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think we'll end with Cindy's question in the chat. So is it necessary to pay for LinkedIn Premium?
Only if you want to get good metrics. And you're going to use them. Otherwise, you're throwing $700 at LinkedIn for no benefit. Okay. I think it's worthwhile, definitely, especially once you start to create a stream of content. You need that feedback. You need to know who's looking at it. Are they your target audience? If not, adjust. Yeah.
Yep, Absolutely. So unfortunately, that's the end of the Q&A session. If you have any extra questions, you can post it onto our workshop discussion forum in Discord, and we can try and answer them. But in AIESEC, we have a culture of snapping to show appreciation for one another. So let's all snap for Megan for that wonderful session. Thank you so much, Megan, for answering all of our questions. I think we all have newfound energy to go and really amp up our LinkedIn profiles.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. And here are Megan's contact details if you would like to get in touch with her. And this will be on Discord as well if you want to come back to it later. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some AIESEC announcements. As you know, we have the global case competition coming up. So I'm going to hand over to the Youth United team to tell you a little bit more about that.
Hi everyone, this is Youth Day from Youth United. I'm very excited to just tell you a bit about the global case competition, which me and my team has been working really hard on. So if you want to kind of apply all the skills you learn here at YLX, the case competition is a perfect opportunity. So you'll get to work on real life problems with a team of people, and you will get a topic that is that will be either mental health, climate change, or gender equality. So they are very important issues. And you will not only be working with people from Australia, but also people from Japan and Vietnam. So you will get to apply the cross-cultural communication skills you learn here. And there will be like a really unique opportunity for you to kind of get to know other cultures and kind of other people's working style as well. So you will also, throughout the case competition, you will get to be mentored by people with extensive experience in the industry. So we're partnering with 4 businesses that are doing great work in either gender equality, climate change, or mental health. And those people will get to you will get to meet those people as your mentors and your judges. So it is truly an exciting opportunity, and the case competition is happening in December, but the application is opening now. So if you're interested, definitely go and check it out on Discord or on Facebook, and just put in your application and we'll be in touch. So if you have any questions, I'm sure you can find some information on Discord, and you can contact us. You can contact us as well. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Faye. Now we have another exciting announcement for the leadership participants. We are opening up a YLX study space and chill space on Discord. So Discord is a really great platform to connect with other people. If you'd like to be productive and have some accountability, you can hop onto study space. Or if you want to connect with new people, play a few games, you can hop onto chill space as well. So for study space, we have a few set times, as you can see down there: 8 to 10 p.m. Tuesday and Wednesday, and 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thursday and Friday, when a few AIESEC members will be on there studying. So feel free to come join us. There's for both morning people and night owls. But you can use the space at any time. It's always open. And for chill space, we're having a games night on Thursday, 1st of October at 8 p.m. It will be a great opportunity to unwind, relax, meet some new people over quite a lot of Among Us and Scribblio, I expect. And you can find the channels below World News, as you can see on the picture on the right. So I hope to see you all there in the next days. And one more announcement. So though we are at the end of the guest speaker workshops, in 2 weeks we're having the Activate Your Skills session. It will be a fantastic hands-on session where you can engage with other participants and work together to apply the skills that you've learned in the past few weeks in the workshops. So this session will take place on 12th of October, which is week 9, and it will be from 5 to 6. Please look out for details on Discord. All right, now as we do at the end of every workshop, we are now going to have a feedback section. We're going to do this via Zoom polls. So the poll is going to appear on your screen now. It'll be there for about a minute and a half. So please fill in your honest feedback about today's workshop. So to answer your question, Justin, if you would like to provide any additional feedback, you can use the form in the link as well. All right. Thank you for doing the poll, everyone. And as I said earlier, if you have any more comments, you can use the feedback survey and we'll put the link in the chat. All right. As we approach the end of the session today, we have a few concluding remarks. It is always a pleasure, as I said at the start, to associate with AIESEC Alumni, and I'd like to invite David back again to say a few words.
You're muted, David. Oh, not muted, but your mic is broken. Again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
But you're muted again.
So you can't hear me, huh?
Now we can
now?
hear you. Yeah.
No, don't put back on your headphones. That was fine.
Okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All these things can be very daunting. But I want to share a few things with you because the presentation obviously was fantastic from Megan. So that you know, though, I mean, within your own midst, you've got your LCP of Monash, Stefan, who is building himself a brand through LinkedIn. And he's using these sessions and what have you to really help promote that, which is working beautifully. Secondly, how many of you have heard of Naomi Simpson? Plenty, I'm guessing. If you don't know, I mean, Megan is nodding her head up and down. Naomi Simpson is one of the most followed individuals on LinkedIn. She has an unbelievable following there. And so that you know, Naomi Simpson was a local committee member up in Sydney back in the day. So Naomi is the founder of Red Balloon, entrepreneurial, Shark Tank and various things. But you'll find that Naomi's real strength was to build her brand for the business and herself through LinkedIn. So if you follow Megan's advice, which is basically just do it, following some guidelines, you really don't know where it's going to lead. So moving on from there, I just want to say at the conclusion of these 5 webinars, it's been an absolute honor to be a part of this, because this is being a real breakthrough initiative, and it's very much a credit to Monash LC, not only AIESEC Australia, supported obviously by the alumni, but it has been fantastic. And I want you guys to know, by now, my understanding is that probably 7 or so members of the LC have had leadership roles in moderating and hosting these events. So for the rest of you, that's a real lesson, because AIESEC does provide you, even without its exchange program, with opportunities to show leadership and to actually get involved, and in the process to help build your resume too. And on that, you know, these webinars have had impact globally. By last count, and I'm only guessing, but I would estimate around about 40 countries have been represented in this series at one point or another from the beginning. One that we had only last week, which was a regional version of the same things, had 30 countries in the one session. So be clear on this. Monash LC, with its initiative, has had an impact on a global basis, not just within Melbourne. And that's a real credit to both Stefan, but in the entire team as well. And that's fantastic. And that also shows you that the entire alumni community embraces all these sorts of initiatives. And I guess in conclusion, you know, I've said this a few times, but the AIESEC and AIESEC alumni experience, you know, this is a lifelong global movement. It has 2 chapters. The first is when you join AIESEC. It finishes when you finish AIESEC and transition then to the second chapter, which is when you join the alumni. And it finishes when you're dead. And the reality is that these movements are building as we speak. So I just want you to make sure that you keep your eye on the future of this journey. And you'll find that the alumni members are always here to support you and help you. They do it not just out of charity. I mean, it makes us feel great too. You guys are caretakers of the legacy. And we welcome you when you transition from AIESEC into the alumni. So I guess just in conclusion, I'm just really proud and thrilled to have been a part of this. And I think you guys should all be very proud of the roles that you've had in putting these on. It's been fantastic content. The speakers have all been wonderful. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that. So congratulations. I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you so much, David, and all of the alumni members. It's been really amazing to connect with you over all of our events and really have you share your experience and insights. And we hope to continue this bond and association over next semester and beyond. Next, a huge thank you to all of our guest speakers, especially Megan, for delivering 5 exceptional sessions. I think we've all grown a lot, had new perspectives, and we're going out with a lot more to think and develop over. And last but not least, thank you to all of the leadership participants for being present, being engaged, asking questions, and really taking ownership of your YLX journey. And we hope to see you at our activity session in 2 weeks, where you can apply all of these skills and reflect on all of them.